The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Diversity Talk. It's Wednesday with Wendy, and I'm really happy to have you here. I'm very excited this week. I just got done doing the Black Bear Film Festival in Milford, Pennsylvania, and our center, Triversity, the Pride Center, had their own block of films. We had LGBTQ films, and we ran from 11 o'clock in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. I got to meet a lot of very cool filmmakers and completely impressed. It was all shorts, but the amount of talent out there now creating films that are doing all of this independent filmmaking and really making a difference. I personally feel one of the best ways to communicate things to people is through theater and through film. And, you know, you've got a set audience and there's lots of elements in a film or in a theatrical production that people can relate to. So it is very, very fitting that tonight I would have a guest on that is very hooked into theater. As I say, there's nothing like a queer horror play so close to Halloween. This one's called Goat Blood, and a playwright is Mark-Eugene Garcia. It is a queer Mexican play, I love that, and introduces us, I hope I'm going to say this right, to a chupacabra. That's right. I think it must be like a Bigfoot or something, you know, some kind of supernatural being. So, are you ready to have your soul devoured? It's playing October 18th, 19th, and 26th at the theater under St. Mark's, which is a space I absolutely love. Please welcome playwright, actor, director, and the person that makes it all happen at the Drama Bookshop, Mark-Eugene Garcia.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. This is so great. I think, when was the last time we saw each other? At the screening for Modest Male Exposure 1?
It may have been that, or it may have been Clover's screening of the murder one. Yeah, Drag to Death. I went to that. So
I just want our audience to know that we only do the finest in film work. I tell you, we all work with our friends, which is, you talk to even people that are in Hollywood, nobody is happier than when they're working with their friends. And we have quite a creative bunch that gets these films together.
We really do. And I feel like if you're working with friends and you're doing what you love, and it's not work, it's just joy in creating art and having fun together and recording it. And it's been a lot of fun.
And then, of course, the aftermath. We love to have these screening parties. I think
yes.
Modest Exposure 1 was at Rock Bar. We had a great, it was so fun to watch the audience there. And then Drag to Death, Lucky 13, and this is my bad. You know, I'm like, oh, well, all of our friends at Rock Bar, they're going to love the film. So we go to Lucky 13 in Brooklyn, where the average age was probably 28. And I'm like, oh, and our film was at the very end of this Video Dome festival there, right? My God, these kids loved us. And you see, you never know. You absolutely never know what your audience is going to be. And that's why we have to test run all this stuff.
You know, it was really funny because I know when we made the first Modest Male Exposure, I was like, what is this going to be? Because it's so vastly different from anything I've done. And then when I finally saw it at the screening, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Well, it was funny.
It was hilarious.
It was funny. And I think is, it was a commentary on
Hmm.
men. Um, and done in a funny way. And these films, you start them out, and it's your reaction, like, what the heck is this? And what did I sign up for? And then you see the finished product. Same with Drag to Death.
Yeah.
Clover wanted to make a horror film, and it was, but come on, the scenarios where everyone got murdered in there were so funny.
And the
Murdered by
murders were hilarious.
oh
They
my
were
God,
absolutely hilarious.
it was so much fun. So now you, who are a very seasoned playwright, you've done so much work. You are launching Goat Blood at under St. Mark's, and that's
Hmm.
October 18th, 19th, and 26th. Can you take us on the storyline with you?
Yeah, Goat Blood, it's a queer Mexican horror play, and it is about Pablo and Owen, who are two coworkers and friends who are waiting for their dates to arrive. While they're waiting, they have a couple gummies, they eat some tacos, and
Wait a sec, tacos and gummies. That's a whole new fabulous combination.
it
Okay,
is, it
please.
is. And so while they're doing that, they get into a conversation about tacos, which leads to being Latina in America, which leads to urban legends, which leads to them having a moment of sexuality that opens between the two of them that they weren't expecting. But just as things are about to get hot and heavy, we hear a rustle in the bushes and a huge monster appears, and it's the chupacabra, which is Latine Folklore. It's stands for goat sucker, which is a monster that has been around for quite a while, but it became a craze in the 90s, and everyone said they saw it from Puerto Rico to Mexico to California to Maine. And it looked like a little alien that was sucking the blood out of goats. And so that's what they see coming after them.
Hold on, because I believe in this stuff. Were they finding dead goats?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Dead
Wow.
goats with 2 holes in the neck and bloodless. And it started this craze, this urban legend. And now it's taken off. And I've always been fascinated by it. And so we find that it's chasing the two of them. And Pablo admits during this chase that it's actually been chasing him his whole life. And so we go back and forth between when Pablo first encountered it and now while he and Owen are trying to run from it.
So is there a flashback with Pablo?
Oh, yeah.
There's a flashback there.
Yeah,
How old was this character when, yeah.
I'm sorry?
When we first discovered it, how old was
the actor Sergio? That whole cast is so good. Sergio plays Pablo, Sergio Quetano, and he flashes back from being 18 to 30. And so the poor guy never leaves the stage because if he's not 30 in one scene, he's 18 in the other, and literally just turns around and comes back on. Yeah, they all are so good. Ravan, who plays Owen, is hilarious and charming, and Gabriel Rosario, who plays Mr. Sanchez, who is from Pablo's past, who knows the history of the chupacabra, is so mysterious and menacing, but also very real. And so you fall in love with these characters, but you know that not all of them are going to make it out alive.
Right. Well, but they can't. That's part of why we watch horror films.
Yeah, like who's it going to be? Who's going to make it?
Who's going to make it? So, does anyone play chupacabra, or you use something else for the monster?
Not telling.
Nor should you. We are not going to have spoilers on this show. No.
Yeah, there's a lot of wonder of whether the chupacabra is real or not, or whether it's just represented, or whether it's it all in his mind. But the inspirations come from the Twilight Zone, and something I love about the Twilight Zone is that you don't always see the monster. It's about the characters, and it's about the suspense, and often it's about what's just off screen. And in this case, it's about what's just off stage. You hear it scratching on the windows, you hear it tapping at the doors or jumping on the back of the car they're in, even trying to climb down the chimney of a cabin that they're in, but you don't always see what it could possibly be. But something's out there. Right. Yeah, something's out there. We just don't know yet. Oh, wow. But by the end of the show, you know what it is.
Now I'm on pins and needles. So these 3 dates don't work for me. I know you've done it in other places when I was reading about it. Is there a chance you're going to do another run elsewhere so I can see it? Because now I want to see it.
Yeah, I hope so. It's it was kind of such a whirlwind that it happened. I came up with the idea for the show about a year ago and just started working on it. And this is probably the fastest concept to stage idea I've had, because there was a couple of festivals that popped up. One was MexFest, about Mexican stories and Mexican writers.
Love
and
it.
the other was this one, the Day of the Dead Festival. And so I entered it to both, and it got into both. And so we did a reading of it at MexFest, and then did the production here at Days of the Dead. And so we'll see. It's had 2 sold out nights already. The next one's looking like it's going to sell out too. And the response has been wonderful. The review has been great. The audiences have been really loving it, and they're having fun. And that's what I wanted. I wanted people to be leaning forward and gasping and hooting, hollering as it goes. And that's what we've been getting. It's like being in a movie when someone's talking in a movie theater going like, don't go in there, don't go in there. We have a lot of that. Yeah.
Well, this is so cool that you, first of all, it's so close to Halloween, and you've got your own scary movie. How did you get started in the theatrical industry?
I started as an actor. I really loved being on stage and being part of that side of the storytelling.
And how old were you when all that happened? Like, did you come out of your mother's womb? Like a lot of people on the show that, they were singing and dancing from the time they were 2.
Yeah. I feel like I was always singing. I know that. I was always in the car singing. I'm sure my parents told me to shut up multiple times because I was always singing. And I had a terrible lisp, and I was singing Somewhere Out There with a thumbware out there.
You had a lisp?
Oh yeah, I had to go to speech therapy and everything.
Okay, but yeah, I got to stop you there because I've had some very famous people come on with a lisp or speech impediments, and they're very famous actors now, and they had to overcome a stutter or a lisp, and they also, as kids, were bullied or made fun of because of it. Did any of that happen to you?
No, and I honestly didn't know. It wasn't until like my parents would sometimes say, like, why do you sing it that way? Like, why don't you say somewhere? And I would turn around and say it the way I in my head heard it. But it wasn't till I went with a friend they had to bring a friend to a speech therapy class, like the person who was in one of the other students, and she brought me. And then while I was there, the teacher's like, I think you should stay. Ended up having to go every week.
I remember in public school, because I went to public school, they would take the kids out for speech therapy. Oh my God, you're making me lisp. So you were singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow instead of
Somewhere Out There from
yes, as they say.
Yeah, from an American Tale. But I still loved it. I still loved to sing and perform. And as a kid, and this was like probably like 5th, 6th grade on. And as I was doing that, I started to write probably in high school. I started to write stories.
Already in high school, you were writing. Where did you go to high school, Mark?
I'm from Southern California, so I went to school out there. But I thought, like, for me, I love to write so much, and I would go home and write. And I thought that's just what everybody did. I didn't realize that people went out and partied or did all these other things after school or hung out. I just took the bus home and started typing. And I ended up writing a whole novel in high school. From 14 to 16 or 17. That's all I did. I would just write. Wow. And it taught me deadlines. I had people reading it. It taught me how to do cliffhangers. It taught me how to kind of create. And so I knew I wanted to do both of those things. And then as I got into college, I started experimenting with writing theater as well as performing. And then as I got older, I realized how much I really loved to write in general. And so I focused all my attention on that. And so I got into a musical theater writing school. That's my big focus.
Wait, tell me where you went. I always love the schools people go to.
Oh, well, I started out in California at Citrus College, and then transferred to a school in Fullerton, FJC. But then I got my undergraduate here in New York at CCNY.
I saw that it was CCNY. I went to Lehman College.
Oh, really? Yay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, there's something to be said. I really wanted to call that out. I've had a number of people on the show that, have gone to City College. I went to Lehman College, which is a city college. It used to be Hunter College. They're great schools.
They really are. And I had wanted to do my undergraduate out here or finish it out here because I wanted to meet the people I was going to work with
Right.
while I was studying. I didn't want to come here completely blind. I wanted to have a community already. And so I had that by going to school out here. And I highly recommend going to New York to go to school if you're going to live in New York.
So you came from, the film center, right, of the United States, LA, right? So many New York actors go out to LA. What made you feel like you would be a good fit for New York?
I knew I wanted to write theater, and I knew I wanted to really work in musical theater specifically. And that's New York. There's nowhere else to go. You have to be here for that.
You're 100% right. Wow.
Yeah. So after that, I got into the BMI musical theater workshop out here, which is specifically for writing musicals, and worked there as a lyricist as well as a librettist, a book writer. And that kind of honed the skills even more. And so while I was doing that, I was also writing plays, and that led me to this.
You're like an abundance of wealth of writing and creativity and lyricists. I had Jerry Geddes on my afternoon show.
Oh, wow.
I know. The fact that this has been happening a lot, by the way, these are two very different shows, but I seem to have like this connection, right? That's drawing in people. There's something in the universe telling me, today was going to be Writer's Day and Lyricist Day and all these people that are doing really great theater, because it's been very challenging. The pandemic really rocked the world of theater, with Broadway shutting down, and, even our friends off Broadway productions, getting them so far, and then someone in the cast getting COVID and the whole thing being shut down. And then, the equity rules, you get shut down too many times, and you have to wait like a year. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. And it really just knocked the wind out of the industry. And for those of us, like, I know I got a lot done. I didn't know when we were coming back, but I promised myself that when we did come back, I was going to kick the door down with like a bunch of scripts and not have to be like, okay, now I'm going to start. So I just wrote, and I wrote so much during that time. And this was an idea partially during that time, but it didn't start to become a real play until about a year ago.
Wow. It's very impressive to me. First of all, you exude positive energy, and to be able to do that on these podcasts, is not easy, because they are a one-dimensional vehicle, right? But your whole attitude and this plethora of being able to write, and I can tell you've got a gazillion ideas in you and theatrical things that are spinning around in your head. Did you inherit that from anybody in your family?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, like my dad is very storyteller focused. I always tell him he should write, and he doesn't. But when I was little, he loves music. And when I was little, he used to put on a song, often without words, something with a piano or just orchestrational and orchestral. And he would play it, and I would listen to it, and he would say, okay, Marky, what is the story? What's happening in this song? And I would create these stories based on the music, based on just the melodies. And that taught me a lot of how to tell a story. Just in my family in general, we Latinos are very storytelling people. We love to embellish and create these things. And so my family definitely does that. My grandma works in music, and so she's a big on storytelling. It's all just here. There's something I do when I go into an audition or anything where I have to present myself in some way, presenting work or anything. I always hold the door open a couple extra seconds when I walk in, and that's so my family can come in, and that's so like the heart, all of my family in my head and heart can come in and join me, and so it's never just me up there presenting. It's always me and everything anyone has ever done to get me to where I am with me at that point.
I'm sorry. You made me teary-eyed at that. I know tons of actors, and everyone has their own process, but I never had anyone say that or create that kind of visual. When you said it, I could see you creating all your family members and the wealth of this culture that you grew up with, all walking in the door with you.
Yeah, and it's just a brief second, and no one knows, and it's just me having this moment of, okay, we're all here, and I'm not just telling my story, but I'm telling our story. I'm telling us and sharing us with these people. And it's the story my aunts and uncles used to tell me, or it's the things grandma used to say, or stuff like that, that just have become part of my stories. I think we all bring truth to what we write, and we all bring realness to our stories. And even something like this with a chupacabra and a monster and horror, there are moments of truth that are ripped directly from my life that I have put into this story to make it real, to make it more than just a monster show. It's about identity, and it's about who we are and the things we face in the US and
culture, and how all of it plays in. I love how you create this environment for Latino community here. Very important to do. I've had Latino poets on the show. We have a strong Latino community, certainly in New York City. I know in California you do too, but there's such a rich culture. And I went to a poetry reading for someone's first book. Grandma was there. Auntie was there. There were a million aunties. The family was so extended. We had every kind of Spanish dish because, of course, they whipped up I never went to a reading like that with such amazing food. And then the next thing you know, they're doing dancing from Puerto Rico with drumming. And it wasn't just a poetry reading. It was an entire night. And this was this person's first book that they did. Yeah. And I thought, what an incredible culture. Because, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant person is not going to do that.
When we opened one of my other shows, Eight Tales of Pedro, we opened at the Queen's Theater, at Secret Theater. It played at Queen's Theater last year, but we first opened it at the Secret Theater as part of a festival. And I was going through my own internal identity crisis of like, am I Latino enough to write this show? And do I have that ability to put this out there? And so I snuck it into a festival to see how it would go. And it was very different from everything else I had done, very storyteller focused, and delved into folklore a lot. And I put it in there thinking, okay, if this goes well, then we'll see what we can do with this. If not, nobody knows. It's fine. It's a little festival in Queens. Opening day, it was so full. The community came out, and then we continued to sell out, and the word of mouth spread. And it was just this amazing experience of bringing us all together that I wasn't ready for. I wasn't prepared for. And then just to feel embraced by the community was so wonderful. And again, it helped me with my own identity. So it was the love that surrounded it. And people were telling me, oh yeah, we were on Tiempo on Channel 7. People were like, oh, I saw you on this. And so we all came out. I brought my family. I brought these people, and people would come back. And it was just really great. And that's been this with Goat Blood too, is that people are excited. They're excited to see the stories that people have told them growing up, or to hear the commentary about that. We talk in the show that Mexicans, especially, I'm Mexican and Honduran, love to scare their kids. Like the stories they tell are terrible. Like if you're bad, El Cucuy is going to eat you and that kind of stuff. And so we talk about that in the show. And it was interesting because we had watched another show previous in the last festival we were in that went on before ours. And she had a similar conversation with the audience about Mexicans loving to scare their kids. And I was like, that's just what we do. Yeah.
We Mexicans just love to scare our kids.
It keeps us in line. It's psychological warfare, but it's it brings in folklore. It brings in all of that. And there's something very special about that, because I think.
Okay, but think about it. Boogeyman, part of America culture. That was, the monster under the bed. All of those were used to try and keep kids in tow. There's something really cool about taking a piece of your culture and bringing it into your kids' life. It's not a negative thing, it's like just keeps them in line. And look at how many people are at your show that want to see this about this monster, this folkloric monster. It's a great, great thing to have. Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you, you perform with Kristen Bell. Uh-oh, you froze. All right. You're a little frozen. And I guess I'm frozen to you too. We have these freezing moments that are here when we podcast, unfortunately. And hopefully we can unfreeze you, Mark. In the meantime, I will talk about some of the other things that you've done. Oh, and our guest is there. I think my producer one is trying to unfreeze him, or maybe he just got knocked off the stream. We can bring him back on. That's what we'll end up doing. In the meantime, I can talk about some of the other things that Mark-Eugene Garcia has done. And let's see, what do I have here? A new musical at the Jericho Arts Center, Unmissed Connections at Planet Connections Theater Festival. And in addition to his writing career, he is part of the management team of the Drama Bookshop. And that's something I just wanted to really call out here, because I remember going to the Drama Bookshop when I was a kid, and I didn't see anything but plays there. They didn't have all of these events and things. So it's something to be said for Mark-Eugene Garcia that he does do these events there. He also has a podcast that comes out of there. I think he takes the shows, these events, and then makes them into a podcast. And let me see, what else do I want to tell you about him. He got his Academy of Musical Theater Studies, where he did lyric writing and book writing, and then BMI, Lehman Engel Musical Theater Workshop. And his productions include Eight Tales of Pedro, which he talked about earlier, The Secret Theater, Queen's Theater, Shining in Misery, a king-size parody, and Stand By at the Towel Theater. And of course, the New York International Film Festival. So I am just going to try and reach my producer here and see if we can get Mark back on the stream, see where he is, because he fell off. And maybe that's him. Not sure what happened. Logging in. Okay. I'm going to tell him good. Thank you for logging in. Isn't it? See, this is like, okay. Thank you. And hopefully the host, Mike, and hopefully we can get our guests back on the stream here. I tell you, this is the beauty of streaming. And you have to understand, I'm a person that's not technical at all. I would give anything to be in a regular studio with 3 cameras and someone else dealing with all these technical glitches. But it is what it is, right? So hopefully Mark-Eugene Garcia will be back, and who will join us in a minute. And it says we are live. I don't see him in my green room. Oh yeah, let me talk a little bit about the process of streaming. So in the regular world of TV, we have a green room where people all wait to come on. And in podcasting, there's a green room also. Hang on, I have another message. Play the reel. Okay, yeah, Juan, can you play the reel? Thank you. That would be great. All right. Thank you so much. Let's just play the reel.
Wow. Come here, you.
In high school, I was the artsy kid. I was in band, I was in theater, and that was kind of my life.
Apparently, you guys decide to match shoes.
That's why we're best
Dr.
friends.
Richard Hadfield.
Now, you're a doctor of what exactly now?
Astrobiology,
Which is?
the study of life outside of the Earth.
The life outside the Earth. So, little green men, is that what we're talking about here?
More like little green germs.
Let's use our imagination. Let's pretend for a second that I have not been paying attention. What have I, Joe Sixpack, John Q. Citizen, what have I missed here?
The pieces are there if you look for them. Why bring an expert in on Mars unless you're dealing with something that had come from Mars? I believe a probe sent to the planet Mars has brought back some kind of contaminant, some form of microbial life. Perhaps even a bacteria or a virus. The quarantine is in place to prevent exposing it to our biosphere, which could unleash a Martian plague and wipe out the entire human race.
Dude. That's fucking
On the
crazy.
stage. Strip.
What?
Are you kidding me?
Twerk. Charleston. Macarena.
And they made me strip down in front of everyone, pants down, underpants down, everything.
Yes, I understand.
I mean, everyone saw my schmeckle.
Yes, I know. I was there. I saw it too.
Oh, God.
Now, you brought the surveillance footage with you.
Yeah, yes. Here. When Joey pants me up there, that was the most humiliating moment of my life.
Yes, I'm sure. Lester, stop. Stop bandaging me and put this on the big
There,
screen.
that's Joey and Matt.
Lovers?
I think so.
You think so?
Well, they're not exactly monogamous, but I think they hump on a regular basis.
Interesting.
Then there's the third one. That's Chuck.
And who's he fucking?
I don't know. I think he's mostly straight.
Mostly straight? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I don't go for guys myself, but I mean, in the dark, all cats are gray. You know what I mean?
No.
Well, as Gertrude Stein said, a mouth is a mouth is a mouth.
Gertrude Stein.
What I'm trying to say is getting your dick wet is getting your dick wet.
Oh.
All right, enough of the crap. Pay attention.
Oh, God, that's me. Turn it off. Turn it off.
Yeah, Lester, shut it down.
I'm trying.
I was really hoping that if she came to any of my rehearsals, it would not be the dance rehersal.
Safe at home with our beautiful bride. We're way off.
Yeah. She was like, hey, that pregnant chick sucks. What are you gonna do, fire me?
Kissed the most girls.
What?
Really?
Mark was always known for dating a lot of girls. Like, a lot.
Follow-up question, who kissed the most guys?
Don't look at me. Don't look at me. In high school, I didn't want to be gay, but eventually I came out to Graham. He would say, you can have anyone. And it suddenly dawned on me to tell him like my biggest secret. And I was like, no, I can't have anyone. I can't have you. I loved him. My biggest fear then was coming out. That was the first experience I had of saying those words. And Graham said, I'm your best friend, and nothing changes.
I loved your reel. Can you hear me? Okay.
Thanks.
Now,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Perfect. So good to have you back with us.
So, yeah, I don't know what happened. It suddenly you froze up, and then I was like, am I still on?
And then you were gone, right? I was still here, but you were gone. You know what happens sometimes when people broadcast from locations that they don't normally broadcast at? This is the beautiful world of streaming, folks. Anything can happen at any time, but it doesn't matter because you know what? Everyone knows I am a run-on sentence, and I just read everything about you while you were gone. But so I love your reel, and
Thanks.
the piece is called, what is it called? Strapped.
Oh, that was a film, Strapped for Danger by my friend Duncan Plaster.
Did you use that to audition for Modest Male Exposure?
No, I didn't, but I do have a common thread there I've learned. I had someone tell me that before. They were like, hey, you're in a play coming up. Can I go see it, or are you going to be naked? And it just happens that I got cast a lot for that. And I think that helped get the role for Modest Male Exposure because they reached out to me. So so there was that. But I guess there's a pattern there.
Well, I have to say, I guess there's a pattern there. But I love the other piece, I guess, Encore, where he talks about
that was fun.
All the girls. There you go. And then you go right into coming out. So
that was my first and only foray into reality TV. I got to be on that show where we reunited and did My High School Musical 20 years later. And so 8 of us came back to our high school and re-performed our High School Musical. Kristen Bell was the host of that. And we did Into the Woods. And we had 5 days. We had between Tuesday and Sunday to put that show together. And it was like a time machine because my parents were in the audience, our friends were in the audience, friends' parents were in the audience I hadn't seen in 20 years. And you're suddenly performing this show on your high school stage again. And it feels like you've blasted into the past. And then a crane with a camera goes by and you realize, no, this is now. And I'm, at that point in my late 30s. And it was such a weird, surreal experience, but so wonderful. You always have that moment of, I wish I can go back knowing what I know. And I got to do that. I got to go back to high school knowing what I know and experience that all over again.
So when you were doing this role, what did you change about how you were doing it, right? Because you went back to who you were, but you're who you are now with all the layers of who you are.
There's a difference, I think, I played the baker who wants to have a child more than anything, and his wife and him have been unable to. And there's a difference between being 17 and singing about wanting to have a child and being at that point 36 and singing about wanting to have a child, because there's layers. You've gone through that process of, oh man, I didn't have kids. Like maybe I should have, maybe I still should, like all of that going in there. Also, what was hilarious is that the woman who played my wife from high school and from that, the baker's wife, was actually 8 months pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant. She was, and it was like a sitcom because we were covering it with bread and with baskets and other things. But she's singing about wanting to have a child, and I'm taking extra care because I wanted to make sure that she was safe in that situation as a performer and as a person. So all of that was going through my head all the while doing this show.
Right on stage.
She could have, and there was times when I thought she was going to, but it was really good.
What a wonderful experience to have had. So the people that you reunited with from high school, have a lot of them gone on to become actors?
No.
Interesting.
No, none of them really. A couple did for a little bit, but have gone on to different paths. Yeah. And so I think that was part of the joy of it, is that we all were getting back into our old routines and getting back into that groove. I think that I joke that I had less screen time a lot because I was so focused. I was like, no, I'm going to prove I'm so fucking competitive. I don't know if I can cuss. I'm so competitive. And so I don't know if I was always like, I'm going to be the best one. I'm going to be the one that they're like, oh, of course he never stopped doing this. So I always had that in my head as I was going. I was self-editing a lot, I'm sure, but it was so wonderful.
But you know what, Mark? It's what you are. I mean, everything about you, even during this discussion, I'm like, he's got a million plays in his head. And some people are all about the theater and live performance. And that is the total vibe that you give off. I had an acting teacher who always uses some saying, joyously communicating. You are one of those actors that joyously communicates. Even when I went by the drama bookstore that day and I said, hey, I'm Jet's friend and I want you to come on the show. And the bookstore had expanded so much from when I was last in there. You could, in the late 70s, you can imagine. Right. Mm-hmm. It was curmudgeon-y then. And you would get your little, what is the publishing? Samuel French. Skinny little Samuel French play. And I always would open them and smell them. I just like the way they smelled. I know I'm just odd that way. I like how things smell, but it's so different now. And I went in there and there was a buzz and there was an energy, and I knew who you were immediately. And it's just really wonderful to see what's happened with the drama bookshop. I didn't even know they were having readings there. Jed Ryan, of course, was going to them and he's like, oh, you need to check these out. And Mark-Eugene Garcia runs all of these readings over there. It's really great. You hosted my friend Maria Connor.
Yes, I love Maria. Mm-hmm.
We all love Maria. I was talking about Maria on my other show today. You can't land Maria. That's the only thing. She's so busy and she's everywhere. But we do manage to land her for things. I absolutely adore her. And I love her book, Girl Shock. And very talented. Again, another very talented performer. So did the drama bookshop become such a really upscales. Look, it's great. It's a very inviting place. When did it change?
I think when we reopened in June 2021, post-pandemic, we were supposed to open the year of the pandemic, and that didn't happen, and so we opened later. But it kind of got a upgrade looks-wise, but also I think a lot of it is the staff. Like, everyone is so knowledgeable, and we come at it with all of these different stories. And so when people come asking for recommendations, or when people come asking for specific things, we're there to guide them and to show that, okay, you know, you're used to seeing this on stage, but have you thought about this? Have you thought about this type of character or this type of story? And it's exciting. It's exciting to see someone light up when they're not used to seeing themselves on stage or seeing themselves represented and saying, oh, this is who I am, and I don't think there's any parts for me. And you're like, well, let me tell you, and come back with a whole thing of stacks.
Wow.
Yeah, it changes, because I think theater is changing, and who we see on stage is changing for good. For it's opening up and showing us all of these stories and all of these people, and really working at being truly diverse. I mean, it's not there yet. I don't know if it'll ever be as current as the times. It's trying, but it's working really hard, and I think that we're doing our part for that. And that's something that we take into the events as well. I try to pick events that showcase different aspects of theater and invite those authors in and do a talk back, and we record them for our own podcast, The Drama Book Show. And it really just helps expand that community. I've always wanted to be a safe space for people. Yeah. I had a wonderful one growing up in California, a coffee house that I loved going to, and I always wanted that. And I was never able to find that until the Drama Bookshop. And now I look, and people come and ask if they can work there. They'll come up and say, oh, this is somewhere I feel safe and I would love to work here. And I'm like, we're not hiring right now, but please keep coming. Please keep coming and feeling safe here, because that's what I want. I want to create that place where you can find yourself and see yourself and be you.
So that 25 years where I didn't go there, when did it stop being that dark little space and burst into this? I'm like on a time warp here with you, because every acting class I took, I was always over there. I have like such a collection of plays for, that I have been in, or audition monologues. That's a biggie. When did it really morph into this whole other thing?
I think it's been slowly doing that for years. I think that the community has really made it what it is. It's not just us. It is the people who come there and who are part of the community, whether they're on Broadway or performing in a community theater somewhere else out of state or so on. Like, they all want to be storytellers, and they all want to be part of something.
Yeah, they want
to. And so, yeah, I think that this is a place where they can do that.
How do you think Broadway is going to fare in the future versus off-Broadway? A lot of the coolest stuff that I see, and it's not just because my friends are doing it, but there's so much great stuff out there now, and a lot of it's off-Broadway. And I guess the line of differentiation is who can get financial backing and who can't. That seems to be, to me, what it boils down to. I'd be curious about your opinion.
Yeah, I think that a lot of theater in New York is so wonderful because there is so much of it and so many possibilities. Broadway is great, and you do get that wonderful backing and that ability to tell grand stories. But you also have to sell a lot of seats and a lot of tickets. And so if you have a niche show, that's not always easy for Broadway. And that's one of the reasons I love off-Broadway and off-Broadway, because you don't have to worry about appealing to everyone. You can tell your niche story and say, you know what, I'm going to tell a story about a chupacabra chasing two guys and having a queer experience, and not worry about, like, this needs to fill hundreds and hundreds of seats. I can worry about filling 50 a night.
Yeah.
And off-Broadway is similar, though off-Broadway is growing into something more expansive, but it still has the ability to tell unique stories. Some of my favorite shows last season were Teeth, which was off-Broadway, or The Connector. And they're shows that got to be a little more niche and a little more unique for the audience to see. And I love that. those are always my favorite shows. I've always loved off-Broadway.
Absolutely. And being in New York, I mean, we certainly did rebound from the pandemic. You know, we still hear Broadway's in trouble, but in terms of theater being produced off Broadway and off Broadway, and there's a million venues, it's really so incredible being here. Like I tell people, I spend most of my time turning things down because there's not enough hours in the day, because I do these shows, I get invited to everything, and people are always giving me tickets. And you know, I'm tied up every night of your show. That's why you have to do this show again.
Oh, please. I hope so. I hope we do it every year, every Halloween season. It's so spooky and scary and
oh my God,
fun.
that's right. It could be like a tradition, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Exactly. Even at this theater, if St. Mark's, if you're listening, let's do this every year.
Right. Now, that theater is great. What's going on with that theater? There was all kinds of things. I heard it was going to shut down. And
I don't know, but it's been wonderful. And I ended up rewriting part of this show to fit the theater. Once we had the show, the script, everything. And once we went into rehearsals and then started playing in the space, I was like, okay, well, you know, let's move these things around. Let's change this. Let's find some moments for some extra spooky stuff that uses the space, that uses the bar, that uses the different entrances that they have. And it's also just a cool little cellar. Like you go down the stairs and go into this little theater. It's so cool.
No, it's so
such
cool.
a good,
the bar
good
is
spot
really
for the show.
great there. The bar used to serve absinthe. Do they still have it?
I don't know. I am too nervous to drink before a show.
You know, absinthe, like, whoa, it's going to be all kinds of ideas in your head.
Exactly. Maybe after closing night, I'll have some if they have it.
Absolutely. So I'm sure you're excited as I am. November 8th, we will be screening Modest Male Exposure, I Dream of Jeans.
Yes, I'm excited. I will be there.
And we will be there. That will be at Pangea. So for anyone that's listening, 7:00, I think it is. Yeah.
I think so. I'll have to check and see. I know I'll be there. I already have my ticket. I'm excited to see it.
We're all going to be there. We really can't wait. And, it'll be our family that gets to do all of these wonderful shows together.
Mm-hmm. As we prepare for part 3.
To work with you in theater at some point. You
definitely
have such great infectious energy, and it's always wonderful being in productions with people that are like that, when you have an entire cast that works off of each other in that way.
Yeah, definitely. Or even film. We haven't had any scenes together yet. We got to make that happen.
I know, because, okay, I'm putting my cards on the table. Look at the kind of scenes you do in comparison to the kind of scenes I do. Just saying.
True.
Well, I am so sorry. We are down to the wire here. We've got 2 more minutes to go. So where can people find you on social media?
Find me. I have it on the screen. Storyteller MG on Twitter, on Instagram, TikTok, all of the things. Find me there. Happy to chat. Happy to make new friends and talk theater.
I know. Yeah. Talk theater. You need to have your own podcast, Talking Theater with Mark-Eugene Garcia.
Well, I do. The drama book show.
No, I know, but I'm saying one that is just even separate from that, where you're like a theater. No, I got it all worked out for you. This is what I do. You're like a theater critic. We talk about your productions. We talk about other people's productions. You see, it's very loosey-goosey. We cover a lot of different things in that. You go around and you see other people's things. Maybe you even travel to Latino countries and see theater there. I've got this all worked out from you. This is all in my head.
You're my new manager. I love it.
I'm your manager. I'm right. I got a million ideas. You are a total and complete delight. I will see you at this screening. And I always do one more thing before I go off screen. I like to shoot. I really enjoy shooting these computer pictures. I'm thinking of maybe doing a show with these. So look at me and say cheese.
Cheese. Queso.
And one more. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with the next shows. And I'm just excited for you. One more question before you go. What are you going to be for Halloween?
I'm working, but I'm also going to see a play that night. So I don't know if I'm dressing up yet. I might dress up as the bookworm at our store, the big display of books. I did that a few years ago, and I have it in my office, so I may wear that for the day.
A bookworm. Book is such a fabulous Oh my God, that's great. Well, I'll be looking out for a bookworm on Halloween. Thank you, Mark-Eugene Garcia. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. See you next week. Bye-bye.